Alrighty, Uncle Roddus here again. This is my Christmas video. Just crank that down a wee bit. It is Boxing Day evening. We just got back from town. We actually had to drop the mother-in-law back into town. She stayed here for a couple of nights over Christmas Day. I'll just tilt that a bit because I can see the lights reflecting off the top of it. So for Christmas Day I got some records. So my wife asked me what I wanted, and I put in an order for a bunch of records. Out of flying out that I had in my wish list, so she had an amount, so I kind of had to pick them because she wouldn't really know what to get me in. So I picked up a bunch of stuff, and also picked up a bunch of stuff I bought. Basically, it's my Christmas present to myself. About 5 records, I think, that I picked up out of Australia from a discog seller who I bought off before. He has actually he has some really good cheap New Zealand. It's all lo-fi sort of experimental noisy stuff, but he has it for very good prices, and I've bought off him before and a bunch of stuff a couple of times. He's a bit slow getting it out the door, but he did get it here, and it did get it to me before Christmas, so that was my Christmas present to myself. So anyway, so the ones that my wife picked up for me, they are ones that have kind of been floating around on my flying out want list for a while, and they're not ones that I'm really all that familiar with. So I picked up some cheaper ones so that I could get more of them for the amount of money that she had for me, because things are a little bit tight money wise at the moment. So but anyway, they arrived just the day before Christmas, thank God. So yeah, I'm not familiar with them that much, but this is Pop Strangers Antipodes. I think Pop Strangers is the name of the band and Antipodes is the name of the album. This was their first LP from 2013 out on Car Park Records, and I think they've had another one out since then. I actually did have a quick listen to this on the headphones yesterday, because we had mother-in-law here and my dad came out for lunch, and it was we basically just watched a few movies and shit, and mucked around and ate lots of food as you do. It was a pretty gloomy, crappy day here. We actually didn't get all that warm. Today wasn't much better. Actually, it rained this morning and it's been gloomy all day. I've spent the day watching cricket, and then we just went to a movie while we were in town tonight. But anyway, back to this here. So Pop Strangers, this is indie sort of rock. Yeah, on first listen there wasn't anything too spectacular, but I will get to know it a bit better as things move along. This one's been on my want list for a while. Olympus is the name of the group. There's actually only 2 members, and it's called Bold Mould. It's from 2010. Now it's actually a guy called Stefan Neville. Now I've shown some of his records recently. He was Pumice. He releases stuff as Pumice. As a matter of fact, the 2 Pumice records that I own were sold to me by the same fella from Australia a while back. Earlier last year, I think it was. Earlier this year. Can't remember now. So there's him, and there's also a fella called Pat Krause who's on this. So these two got together and put this out. Pat's turned up on a lot of stuff recently. In my last video I showed a record by a band called The Aesthetics, and that's a really fantastically cool grungy punky sort of very lo-fi, but it's really really good, and some great guitar riffing, and it's a little bit more conventional musically actually, but anyway, Pat played on that as well. Plus he plays he releases his own stuff just under the name Krause. I've met Pat, he's a nice guy, he's a good guitarist. Yeah, his solo stuff's really lo-fi but really interesting. So this is very lo-fi. I did listen to one side. I was a little bit disappointed. It's not as interesting perhaps as I thought it was going to be. It's a little bit it's a little bit infantile some ways, with the silly vocals and that, I feel, and there is a few of that sort of stuff going on like that in the New Zealand scene. It's a little bit, I don't know. Sort of like anything goes. I don't know, maybe it'll grow on me. I was a bit disappointed. I was expecting a little bit more from that. Haven't listened to this one yet, apart from I do believe that I will be familiar with probably at least one song, and I think Chris Walker had played on his show several months ago. This is quite an old record. This is on Flying Out Records, or it says licensed to Flying Out. This is from 2014. So it's not actually a Flying Nun release, because Flying Out, the shop Flying Out is actually the retail outlet for Flying Nun officially. I think Flying Nun do own that shop. This one is on this blue vinyl here. So yeah, it's just put out by Flying Out. Perhaps it's actually under exclusive license, maybe self-released but distributed by Flying Out. I'm not sure, but anyway, really can't say too much about it, what it's going to be like. I say there may be a track on here that I will be slightly familiar with from Chris's show. I know he has played these guys on his show. So these are really just filling in my collection for New Zealand music. I'm not, to be honest, I don't expect them to be too great. And the last one that Mrs. Santa brought me, this one here from Indie. This is a Flying Nun. This is a Flying Nun record. Indra Force is actually her name, but she's calling herself Indie. She's not actually in New Zealand anymore. She's actually based overseas. I'm not sure whether this was recorded here. She actually played on Motti's Strange Dreams album, which we showed quite some time ago, which is a fantastic release from last year by Anita Clark under the name Motti. I've met Anita and she ran into her in Wellington, had a good chat to her up there. I'd seen her around, I've never spoken to her before, but I've seen her live a few times playing as Mott or Motte. I heard a track on this on Chris's show. It was quite a dark sort of ambient electronic track, so I understand the rest of it's not quite like that. It's a bit more poppy, maybe a bit more dreamy, but yeah, so interesting to see what that's going to be like. Now, the Discog stuff. Oh, actually, I tell a lie, that Aesthetics album I was talking about wasn't something I showed in my last video. It's something I'm about to show in this video. I just spotted it there. This is a strange record in that it doesn't have a cover. So basically, it came in a sleeve, which I have changed for this MoFi sleeve. And the artwork consists of a bunch of this sort of inserts per se. The Ideal Gus is the name of the band, and the album is called 99. And this is, let's see if I can find the names of the guys. This is actually, I think, a duo too. This is also very primitive, lo-fi, home recorded, weird, experimentalish type stuff. And I can't. So these are. Oh, look, let's show these. These are kind of a little sketch there on that piece of paper. A page out of some kind of construction manual for piles of foundations. 2015. And then I guess that's the track listing on that piece of paper there. Now I think Clayton Noon is involved in this, who's a man who turns up on several New Zealand artists of this kind of weird underground lo-fi noisy. Some of the stuff is really good, some of it I think is a little bit, can be sort of imbecilic or childish or perhaps silly. Sometimes anything goes on these kind of records. On first listen, this had some interesting moments, but I wouldn't rave about it, but it may grow on me too. So it's a bit like the Bold Mould Olympus record perhaps. But this is the one I was mentioning before, the Aesthetics. I thought I showed this in a previous video, because I did pick up another bunch of records for my birthday, which I showed in my last video, which I haven't put up yet, but that'll be up. So the Aesthetics. Now who's in this band? Matt Middleton, Stefan Neville again. I'm sure Pat Krause plays on this, I think. I'm sure it was this one he was mentioned in. Anyway, this is, I think, their second LP. Oh, when is this? 1999. Wow, is it that far back? Oh, recorded from 1995 to 1997 in Dunedin. So, yeah, this is quite old stuff. They've actually put out quite a lot of music, not all on vinyl. I think there are a couple other vinyls, and someone mentioned there is another one worth getting. And then there's some CDRs, maybe some cassettes, I don't know. But yeah, this is, I mean, again, very lo-fi, but man, really good. There were some fantastically good riffs on this. This is actually a really good record. And I made the comment that if this had been properly produced in a real studio, a real producer, and made into that more commercial sort of sound that they, you know, the rock albums like, that they, you know, I think there could have actually been a lot more successful record. More lo-fi weird stuff from the Futurians. This was their last album out late this year, or mid this year on Feeding Tube Records. I'd sort of, to be honest, I picked up their last album, which was out quite a few years ago now. There's quite a big gap between records. And I showed it earlier this year, and there was a really good track that Chris had played on one of his record radio shows off that other album, which was, I think, their second or third, and this might be their fourth now. But when I got the actual record, yeah, the rest of the record was quite a bit disappointing. I do need to give it some more attention. Like I say, it's very, very lo-fi, very distorted. There's a massive amount of distortion put on this stuff. I think from first listen, I had listened to this the other day, and I think from first listen, I actually think this was actually a better record than their last one. Yeah, I think I was quite impressed with it, even though it is very, very lo-fi. There's the track listing on that piece of paper there. So yeah, out of Feeding Tube. So Feeding Tube Records is out of the States, and unfortunately to buy directly off them, the postage is just unbelievable. I did show another record I picked up off Feeding Tube recently. There was a Stephen Neville, Greg Malcolm record, I think it was. So also picked up this one. This is a compilation of early Renderers tracks. I've got two other albums by the Renderers. That's a duo, a husband and wife duo from Christchurch. This is out of the States, Exiled Records, and I don't know the date of this one, but I think at least one of the songs on here I have on one of those other records, but there's some other stuff I'm not that familiar with. Yeah, they've been around many years, but they've only put out a couple or three on vinyl, and this might be the last one I needed to get. Oh, there may be one more, I'm not sure, I'd have to check. They're a really great band. Again, fairly lo-fi, like a lot of New Zealand stuff. The guy from, the seller from that sold me all this stuff, actually runs kind of a record label, and it's called Albert's Basement. Well, I don't know if it's a record label or if it's it says here, an Albert Basement release, but also Quamada Records. This is out of Brisbane. No, it's not. It's out of Melbourne, Australia. So I never heard of this. This is Ali and Bev. Might not look like it to you. This is a 4-track EP. I've only played one side of it. It was sort of a electronic-y sort of stuff. Ambience, maybe a little bit of ambience to it, I think. Can't say too much because I haven't really listened to it yet. Like I say, being Christmas time, I haven't had a lot of time to do that. But this was basically, he just threw this in for me. And last time he did the same thing when I bought about half a dozen records off him. He gave me a cassette of stuff that they'd released in that album. Unfortunately, I don't have a cassette player, so I've never been able to play it. But anyway, this is my pride and joy purchase for the Christmas period. I've been after this for quite a while. This is Roy Montgomery's second to last release. Now, RMHQ, Roy Montgomery HQ it's called. This is a 4 LP box set that was released on Grapefruit Records out of the US. And it doesn't show up in the shops here. It is available on CD. So this is Transient Global Amnesia. Each album's a little bit different. There's sort of different. Some have got vocals, some are just instrumental. I'm not too sure. I've been aware of this for a couple of years now. I know Chris had talked about it. He played some tracks off it. I was kind of like, yeah, I wasn't blown away by what I'd heard, but after seeing Roy play live and also picked up his album that he released this year, I'm just stunned by some of his music. Dark Motive Dance Hall is that one. Bender, this one is called Bender, and the last one is called Tropic of Anodyne. So yeah, I'd heard a couple of tracks, and so I'd put it on my want list, and I missed out on a copy at the record fair that I went to earlier this year, where I saw a buyer had a copy of it, and I asked him if it was for sale. He said no, I've actually only just bought it myself this morning because the dealers got to pick all of the best stuff up before the rest of the public were allowed in. Well, not saying that I didn't get some pretty good stuff from that, but yeah, he picked up a copy, paid a little bit less what I paid for this, but I still paid a pretty good price. I still got this for a fairly good price. So out of Grapefruit Records from 2015, I believe now. So yeah, it's been on my want list for a couple of years. I hummed and hard about it. I hadn't really seen it for a great price. I'd seen it on CD, which I almost bought at Penny Lane. I saw it on CD and I was tempted, but I was holding out for the vinyl version. I haven't played all of it yet, but the instrumental one, the last one, I think is mainly the instrumental, and that's the one I had to listen to the other day, and that's really, really cool. And it's a bit more of the stuff that I saw him do live last year, and perhaps more like stuff that he released on his Infuse album, which came out just only a couple of months ago, which I showed in a video. So there we go. That's my Christmas presents from my wife and from me. And I've got I got a Flying Out, who I've mentioned many times in the past, who I buy a lot of my New Zealand stuff from, because I don't always see it down here in the shops, and I don't always get a chance to get into town. And they have pretty good supply of Flying Nun, of course, Flying Nun stuff and New Zealand stuff. Not all of it, but enough for me to buy a lot of my stuff through them. So they sent me a Christmas card saying that I was one of their best customers, probably because I spent $2 or $3 grand there this year, maybe upwards. And they gave me a $10 voucher, and then today was Boxing Day and they had their 20% off sale. So I picked up 3 records that I got 20% off plus an extra $10 off for the voucher they gave me. So that purchase will be here probably next week, plus 2 Trade Me purchases, really cool Trade Me purchases that I picked up over just before Christmas. So 5 records on their way, and that'll be my next video. So anyway, happy Christmas everybody, and a happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon. I'm going to do a best of 2018 video very soon.